Once upon a time in Australia, in the year 2053, things were not so good. The narrator said that after a big war, crime went way up, and that meant lots more people ended up in jail. To deal with this problem, the government made a program called the Box Rehabilitation Program. This program gave prisoners two options: either stay in solitary confinement or choose to be killed right away. Once inside the box, prisoners could only get food and water if good citizens allowed it. If anyone tried to escape or help someone escape, they'd be killed. Then we saw a French lady stuck in one of these prison boxes. She looked like she was having a really tough time living without food and water. In a moment of profound despair, she succumbs to her overwhelming suffering and resorts to a desperate act, using a razor blade to tragically end her own life. The scene shifts to a desolate rocky island, surrounded by rows of prison boxes, where the innocence of children at play contrasts sharply with the grim reality of confinement. A playful game with a rubber ball inadvertently strikes one of the boxes, startling prisoner 371113 back to consciousness within its confines. As she awakens, she finds herself bound tightly by ropes, her frantic pleas for release echoing in the confined space. Suddenly, a screen flickers to life, revealing a woman who delivers the grim news of her guilt and subsequent sentencing by the jury. With a sense of finality, she learns of her fate: 7 years of rehabilitation without parole, her very survival chance upon the mercy of those she once betrayed. Upon hearing the grim verdict, prisoner 371113's cries of innocence pierce through the air, her tears a testament to her desperation. The next day she awakens and gestures for water, but her pleas fall on deaf ears in the empty surroundings. Fueled by desperation, she searches every corner of her confinement for an escape route, only to be met with painful electric shocks at every attempt. With each passing moment, the struggle for survival grows more daunting. Meanwhile, in another box, prisoner 13558 embarks on her own quest for freedom. In her exploration, she unwittingly triggers an alarm, setting off a chain of events that seals her fate. As the ominous red light flashes, sharp metal rods descend from above, mercilessly impaling her to a tragic end. The next morning, the young woman wakes prisoner 371113 and provides her with a meager diet of pellets and water. Although the prisoner pleads her innocence, the young woman tells her that her salvation lies with the people. She assures her that she is only one of many who have walked through these confines. In the ensuing days, prisoner 371113 continues to subsist on meager rations of food and water. However, a wave of despair and desolation overwhelms her one day, driving her to contemplate drastic measures. She seizes a rope, intending to end her suffering, but ultimately relents, unable to carry out her dire intentions. Tears stream down her face as she questions the injustice of her plight. Over time, prisoner 371113 resigns herself to her fate, finding solace in simple distractions to endure her incarceration. She spends her days peering through a small aperture and seeking refuge in slumber. Eventually, she discovers a rubber ball, providing yet another means of passing the long, lonely hours. After several weeks, a drone relocates the prisoner's box to a new setting, revealing a lush forest environment. In a subsequent scene, we are introduced to another inmate identified as 180102. He carries a 5-year sentence and has already spent half of it confined within his box. Over the course of 2.5 years, he has come to terms with his confinement, acknowledging it as a consequence of his past actions. One morning, prisoner 371113 encounters a girl clad in blue attire. Curious, the girl inquires about the prisoner's activities, prompting prisoner 371113 to disclose her 7-year sentence. Engaging further, the girl initiates a conversation, asking if prisoner 371113 is familiar with William Shakespeare. Surprised by the inquiry, prisoner 371113 admits her lack of knowledge on the subject. The girl kindly offers a book by Shakespeare to broaden the prisoner's horizons. However, prisoner 371113 declines the offer, citing restrictions during her rehabilitation period as the reason for her refusal. As they chat, the girl invites prisoner 371113 to come closer, clasping her hands and sharing verses from Shakespeare's writings, which brings comfort to prisoner 371113. After this heartening moment, the girl offers a small bag of food pellets and bids farewell, promising future visits. Feeling uplifted by the human connection, prisoner 371113 reclines on the floor, indulging in a moment of self-comfort, unaware of the watchful eye of the CCTV camera. During a mealtime, prisoner 371113 discovers a tiny book hidden among the food, revealing itself to be a miniature copy of Shakespeare's works. Turning away from the surveillance, she opens the book, absorbing its contents. Using her limited water supply, prisoner 371113 cleanses her wounds, prioritizing her health. She disposes of the used water outside through a small opening, unaware of the camera's scrutiny. However, the camera catches prisoner 371113 discarding the water, resulting in her sudden relocation back to the seaside. After some time, the same civilian girl returns to prisoner 371113 and asks why she's imprisoned here. Instead of a direct response, the prisoner wonders aloud how the citizens decide who receives food among all the imprisoned individuals. The girl admits that she walks among the boxes, chats with the inmates, and gives them food. She explains that she tries her best to reach everyone, but bad weather often hinders her efforts. During their conversation, prisoner 371113 confides in the girl, mentioning how she reminds her of her late younger sister. As the days pass, prisoner 371113 finds solace in the miniature book, which she reads regularly, keeping it hidden from the watchful gaze of the camera. A few days later, the drone once again relocates prisoner 371113 to a new location. There, she encounters a citizen who cruelly taunts her by eating a luscious apple within her sight. Faced with intense hunger, prisoner 371113 pleads desperately for mercy, but the man callously refuses, advocating for the execution of all prisoners without compassion. However, he offers her the apple on the condition that she satisfies his desires. Driven by starvation and desperation, prisoner 371113 reluctantly agrees to his terms, violating the law in the process. As the illicit transaction unfolds, a patrolling drone catches the man in the act and swiftly takes lethal action, killing him instantly. In the chaos, a stray bullet strikes prisoner 371113's leg, inflicting excruciating pain. Despite her injury, prisoner 371113 manages to reach outside and retrieve the apple from the deceased man. Hastily, she bites into it, only to discover that it is infested with worms, causing her to throw up. That same night, prisoner 371113 is startled awake by a blaring siren, accompanied by a stern voice informing her of her violation of prison rules by trading for food. The consequence: 7 days of enforced insomnia, presented as her first and final warning. The following days become a torment, as every attempt to rest is met with relentless sirens and flashing lights, driving her to desperate measures. In a desperate struggle to stave off sleep, she resorts to self-harm, banging her head against the unforgiving walls. The prolonged deprivation plunges her into hallucinations, where she encounters a majestic figure resembling her own reflection. After enduring the grueling 7 days, the punishment finally ends, granting her exhausted mind the reprieve it desperately craves. Yet her body succumbs to the accumulated fatigue, plunging her into a deep slumber that lasts for days. One night, she awakens to the sound of fireworks and peers outside to witness the vibrant display illuminating the sky. It dawns on her that the citizens are celebrating the new year. In celebration of the occasion, an amnesty is declared for isolated prisoners, although those with political convictions remain excluded, including prisoner 371113. Despite this, she continues to serve her sentence within her confinement. One day, an elderly woman approaches the prison box and engages in conversation with prisoner 371113. She recounts her own arduous journey of enduring 15 years in similar isolation, admitting how it shaped her into a resilient yet embittered individual. As she departs, she tosses a rusty razor blade towards the prisoner before disappearing into the distance. In another encounter, prisoner 371113 is once again approached by the Shakespeare enthusiast from before. Initially questioning her reality, prisoner 371113 is reassured by the girl's presence. She offers water and recites passages from Shakespeare, providing a brief but welcomed respite from the prisoner's ongoing suffering. The scene jumps ahead a few months, revealing prisoner 371113's swollen belly, a stark indication that she carries the child of the man who once offered her an apple. During the night, the Shakespeare enthusiast girl approaches prisoner 371113 with a desire to liberate her from captivity. However, their interaction triggers the security system, setting off alarms. Sensing the looming danger, the girl swiftly retreats, bringing an end to the blaring sirens. The next morning, a citizen visits prisoner 371113, offering her mercy. He gestures towards a distant prison box, which he claims to have burnt down as an act of mercy. Witnessing this, prisoner 371113 refuses to accept such mercy, choosing instead to endure her grim reality rather than succumb to false hope. After enduring several more months, prisoner 371113 enters labor within the confines of her box. Enduring agonizing pain, she eventually gives birth to her baby. Cradling her newborn in her arms, she is overwhelmed with joy, momentarily forgetting the years of suffering she has endured. However, her happiness is short-lived as the security system detects the presence of an additional life within the chamber. In response, it releases a gas, inducing anesthesia and causing prisoner 371113 to lose consciousness. When she awakens, her child is gone, leaving her distraught and inconsolable. Frantically, she cries out, pleading to have her baby returned, but her cries fall on deaf ears as usual. At one point, prisoner 371113's box is battered by sea waves in a fierce rainstorm, causing water to flood inside. As the chamber fills, she trembles from the cold, her body shivering uncontrollably. The security system, malfunctioning due to the water, erroneously interprets her presence as a breach of confinement. Unaware of her dire situation, authorities issue a warning. If the interference isn't cleared within seconds, the prisoner will face extermination. With the countdown ticking away, prisoner 371113 fights against drowning in the rising water. When the countdown reaches 0, a patrolling drone arrives to transport her for extermination. However, on the way, the drone is struck by lightning, sending the box plunging into the sea. In the final scene, citizens playing on the coastline spot the washed-up prison box and prisoner 371113. Despite noticing her, they choose to turn a blind eye, abandoning the unconscious prisoner as they walk away from the scene. Thanks for tuning in, guys.